Welcome back to Logical Creationist.
Well, I'll be doing my first video install of the Legends of Raw Call series. So this is the first part. But here we have the like to dislike ratio. About 3 months after this was released, YouTube decided to take away the dislike button. I was able to download an extension which allowed me to view again. As you can see, it's on 139 likes and 12 dislikes as of time of recording. And this was uploaded on the 3rd of April 2021, almost 3 years now. The intro of the video was just an explanation of what deception is and how only the people in a picture can correctly determine what is going on in there. We find out that the people in the picture are the all-knowing ones, so they know what occurs and what is going on at all times, and they can't be deceived as they have the mind of the creator and speak on his behalf and are the only ones that can do that. Stood a good 6 to 7 minutes. Next was the American Skin trailer. Starred Omari Hardwick, who's best known for his role as Ghost on the Netflix/Starz series Power, which was made by one of the elites we know in 50 Cent. That was 3 to 4 minutes, leading us to the 10-minute mark. And then after is where we're told that the celebrities and influencers who have been forced onto us are deified when they are mere beings with flesh and blood like the rest of us. Those who are wise and in the knowledge of the truth know why I had omitted human from my explanation. Then we have a passage of the real Revelations 18 verse 4 to 6 in scripture, which would have been like this, but I will not explain it because that's outside my capacity. That would last for another 2 minutes. Then the narrator goes on to explain the basics of the transvestigation, right? That's after the 12-minute mark. And what I was able to take away was 4 key points, which was that females have an arch in their back, either in a C or S shape, and the males have no arch in their back, but their back is usually P or D shaped, and females have hips below their crotch to make childbirth easier, and males have their hips above their crotch so that their sperm is at an optimum temperature. So that lasted between 3 to 4 minutes, around the 15-minute 40 seconds mark. After, that's when we learn that in all actuality, men have 2 types of sperm, the XY and the XX, but the XY is larger, the same way that women have 2 types of eggs, the XX and the XY, with the XY also being larger, the XY being for male, the XX being for female. So scientists have falsely told us that the child is decided by the man, and so the fertility issues are the man's fault, but the opposite is the case. The standard used for identifying human beings is obviously woolly-haired people, so black people. The left side of the ovary, which is where most women ovulate, produces the XX, which is the female egg, whilst the right side of the ovary produces the XY, which is the male egg. Due to this, women produce more women for the world naturally, and only healthy women who eat the right foods ovulate from both sides, so they give birth to both male and female children. We then learn that only the XX sperm can fertilize an XX egg, and an XY sperm can fertilize an XY egg. So the XY sperm is in the right testicle sitting higher, whilst the XX sperm is in the left testicle sitting lower. Even, for example, a male sperm meets a male egg. If they are incompatible, aka not from the same stock, then fertilization cannot take place. Then the woman will not get pregnant. To further explain that, only a righteous male seed can fertilize a righteous female egg, and only a wicked male sperm can fertilize a wicked female egg. Ideally, righteous people are born from a union of a righteous man and a righteous woman for the most part, especially amongst the children of the Creator. But for righteous Gentiles, it can be a bit complicated. So when it's a righteous man and a righteous woman, 9 times out of 10, a righteous child will come out. And why do I say 9 times out of 10? Because of how the world is and corruption within those righteous people in their lineages. They might have ancestors that might have not always kept the commandments, and now someone's genetic information is now resurfacing who would have been wicked, but it's such a small amount. So that's why I said 90% of the time it would produce a righteous child. And since a man's genetic material is mainly responsible for how the child turns out, let's just take a look at a few articles which would be able to prove that as such. So here we are on Brightside. It's an article. The key part I want to look at is where it says mother's genes are usually 50% of a child's DNA and father's genes are 50%. However, male genes are much more aggressive than female genes. That's why they're usually more prominent. So there's usually 40% active female genes and 60% active male genes. So that would show that because the man produces the seed and the woman has the egg, so that is the main component of it, which is to show that we are the embodiment of what our fathers are, with an addition to whatever the genetic material comes from our mothers. Let's look at another one. This is from Inverse. While epigenetic mechanisms are clearly at play, why a father's genes are more expressive remains unclear. Still, researchers are making headway, and many think that it will start a war all the way back in the womb. That's just not, but the point is they're making it clear that the father's genes is more expressive, right? Here we have an albino child. Why we are likely to be more genetically similar to our dads than our moms. Genes from your father are more dominant than those from your mother, as new research shows. This is from the Independent, as you can see from the top. And finally, hold on, does have 2015, the other one was 2017. 2015 again, the same thing here, which is obviously proving the point that was made. Epigenetics, study of how your behavior, environment can cause changes in the way your genes works. A negative environment can obviously rub off on a righteous person, but once they come across the truth and hear it, then they'll obviously act the way they are supposed to naturally, right? And next would be a righteous man and a wicked woman. Or a righteous man and a wicked woman would probably have a higher chance of producing a righteous child than a righteous woman and a wicked man, because if the child is the embodiment of the man, that means the man is obviously responsible for whether the child will be wicked or righteous. Because if the man mostly produces righteous seed, he's doing the commandments of the creator, that means he can only fertilize a righteous egg. Even if the woman is wicked, she could still produce that, but at a very lowest scale. So the chances of them having a child would be more difficult than a regular that is ideally expected by the creator, a righteous man and a righteous woman. Same goes for wicked man and a righteous woman. If the righteous woman only produces righteous eggs, then it's going to take the wicked man some time to be able to have a child with her, because if he can't produce a righteous seed, which would be highly unlikely but not impossible, then they're not going to have a child. And then the last but still not least is that two wicked people can have a righteous child. I would say that would be a 1 in 10 chance. So they would both have to have the genetics of righteous people in their lineage, and then it just somehow was able to click at that, but the probability is so low. So that's why I say 1 in 10 chances, but it's still possible. That's how someone can have two wicked parents and still turn out righteous, and the same way how two righteous people can have a wicked child if care is not taken. It's up to the 45-minute mark of the video. After that, for 2 minutes we have The World Is Not Enough. It's a James Bond trailer movie. We just go past that. We find out that a righteous man can do mistakes, but a wicked man can do good deeds, but that does not change his genetics. And we find out that the difference between a black and albino body is very different. That goes up to 55 minutes, so that's lasts about 8 minutes. Then we have John Legend, who we find out is a FTM. It's a her. That's a female to male. And her homosexual partner, Chrissy Teigen, is a pedophile. Now, I'm going to show the evidence for that in just a moment. There's quite some disturbing things. She deleted it. You know, today people call it gay, lesbian, but let's call it what it is. It's homosexuality. It's quite unfortunate that this has been normalized in our world, but it's what we gotta deal with, right? Not forever, that's for sure. It's quite obvious why she deleted it, to cover her tracks. Once you put something on the internet, it's not going anywhere. Actually, you should be wise of what you post out there. These lot clearly are not, because they're wicked. From 55 minutes to 1 hour and 8 minutes, we have the T-Pain transvestigations. She is an FTM, female to male, and then obviously an MTF is a male to female. For an example, the most famous one that's been on the channel, which would be Beyonce, right? Next, we find out that the United States is a breeding ground for the elites to do their wickedness and their abominations, right? Let me be blunt. So as you can see, I've cut out the transvestigations because it's probably my least favorite part of the truth, because I believe it's the easiest concept to grasp. Like, if you can't see that, you're not gonna go that far on this journey, if I'm just being honest with you, right? I mean, brief explanations and just getting straight past them, right? We find out that elites had changed what was supposed to be. We're supposed to just depart from wickedness. Now they told us to do good, which can also mean tolerating evil, which is not a commandment of the Creator, right? Along with T-Pain, we find out that actually, if we go back to a previous series, to the end of one, which is the regular roll call series 14, we find out that actually T-Pain is related to a few other people. Let's just see where that is, and then we can just quickly play that clip. Just bear with me on this. Okay. Should be here.
Everybody in the sphere of contact that becomes a superstar is related. So a lot of people know about Jay-Z, they know about 2 Chainz, they know about Kanye West, they know about Rick Ross, and they know about Diddy. Now, a lot of stories are always created amongst these superstars. Have you ever wondered, how is it that one person just comes up from nowhere and becomes the superstar of the day? What happens is that the families who run the world, through their affiliates, have certain lineages and families they have always used, all right, to create superstars or to create people that we adore. So if you do not belong to those family lineages, or you are not affiliated to them, you can never be a superstar. That's how superstars are chosen. So when you look at people like Jay-Z, 2 Chainz, Kanye West, Rick Ross, and P. Diddy, they are not in the position they are by their own hard work. They just happen to possess the greatest talent. They belong to certain lineages or are affiliates whom the satanic families who run the world choose to be in the position that they are. So if you do not belong to those lineages and you are not affiliated, no matter how talented you are, no matter how hard you work, you will never ever be able to rise to the top.
They basically foreshadow what they fully debunk in their latest series, which I will not name until it's necessary to, but it's after the Legends of Roll Call series, and it's after the preludes to The Shape of Our World, right? That lasts up till...
That would be the 1 hour 26 mark.
Let's see where it is. Yeah, around there. Then we see... where the narrator explains how in the Geneva Bible, Matthew 13 verse 24 to 30, how the Creator could just erase evil, but he needs it to be mature so that the judgment is righteous. And then we also find out that gospel music is also wicked, as it glorifies God, which we now know is one of the names of Satan, and does not honor the Creator, right? Because the Creator seeks for his children to have respect and honor for him, and not the glory that men, the wicked elites, seek. Yep. So that goes up to the 1 hour 34 minutes mark. So that's about 8 minutes of that. Then I skipped past the Effects of Music by Nigel Stanford, just to show how music affects us. And if you don't have the filter of knowing the commandments, then you'll be influenced to do wickedness if you're not righteous. That's for sure. That lasts for another 2 minutes. Yeah. And then at the end, for that, from 1 hour 38 to the end, which is almost 2 hours, it just shows the difference between black women who have shorter collarbones with more feminine, rounder and shorter shoulders, which is the opposite in albino women, which they explain in detail there. That should be all for that. That's the video wrapped up in its essence, and there was a few things that I wanted to go through, which we're going to take a look, because earlier in the video they had talked about black people with straight hair not being black. Let's take a look at that. Here we have a chart of people and their hair types, right? If we look at this carefully, right, from what we can see from the screen, the ladies that have the 4C hair, they're obviously black. Same with 4B and then 4A. But now the gray area would be that 3C. And if I can just get another image, then I can be able to get my point across as well. So once you get to that 3C, it's a bit of a gray area, because it's like they could be black, but there might be a small bit of admixture. I believe that's the breaking point. People that usually have 3C hair would be people that are normally 3/4, right? 3/4 meaning 3/4 black. It depends on where their genetics is from, which will decide whether they are black or albino. Let's give a prime example. We have this man, his name is Andrew Tate. Over the last couple of years, after lockdown, he's blowing up as a example of masculinity and whatnot, but anybody with common sense knows that he's an agent of the elite. Let's take a look at his family briefly. So here he is with mother, younger brother and younger sister, and the father, right? The father is actually a man who is 3/4 black. Could pass off as a black man, but by his actions definitely didn't feel like one, because if you can see here, that's Andrew's grandfather, which is Emery Tate the first. That's the second, and that's the third. That's a black man who married a mixed race woman to give birth to him. He's 3/4 black, 75% black. Obviously, despite being more black than white, he didn't love his black ancestry, went and married this lady to give birth to these three, who in percentages would be about 1/3, but they could pass off as the false Eastern Europeans who, if you've met them, they do not like people of African descent. That's a story for another day. They call them the Balkans, Slovakians, all that, but that's, like I said, a story for another day. This is for example, a family where the father is black, the mother is mixed race, and the kids could pass off as black, but like I said, it's someone's genetics that will show you who they really are. So that's why I said that 3C is the gray area. For all definitions, if your hair is not type 4, then chances are you're not black and you have some admixture. But if it's 3C and you're 3/4, then that's, like I said, the bit of the gray area. Your genetics will tell you what you're. So if you're 3/4 and you married a black person, the child that comes out of that would obviously be black. But if you're 3/4 and you marry a white or an albino, that child will come out as an albino, because that child will now be 2/3, or yeah, 2/3 albino, and then you would have lost your black lineage, because we all know that these two men are definitely not going to be dating black women. If you've seen them around, you would know that that's not the case. So his father, who would be him, has now lost himself, all because they didn't love themselves. And that goes down to genetics, because all people that are righteous, they want to replicate and duplicate themselves. They want to see themselves in their children. And in this prime example, that clearly is not happening. I would be ashamed of myself if I had a child that didn't look like me. Oh, I'm sure you were thinking I'm going to reveal what I am. Not necessary. I'm just here to give examples and just give a proper viewpoint. I just wanted to clarify that. Naturally, the next one will be second video. This is the live chat session which I'd cropped out for the Legends of Roll Call 1. Just gonna quickly go through it, and if anything stands out to me, then obviously we'll just review it quickly. What Robert Kendo is saying is reasonable. Yeah, and then let's see. Tricks of the Yes Trade is for every person, no matter color. Well, not necessarily. That would be, it's a channel to bring out the righteous from the Gentiles. No, he is not against black people, but here is a quick lesser known fact: we are all black. Well, that would have been accurate at one point, but not anymore. Let's see. No doubt that the people in positions of power will be watching this, or in the future, or you never know. Yeah, there are agents around, that's for sure. Well, that's the thing. You can't always come back to this upload because there's a few uploads in the series that have been removed. Naturally, there will be a session where you'll see down the line that anything that has been removed off YouTube, I'm not going to react to it. Despite I have the content for my personal copy, but I'm not going to give something for free that I paid for. It's just not an intelligent move now, is it? We have V-Ward. No one gets to choose how they were born. That's right. Focus on things you can change and accept the things that you cannot change. Skeleton never lies. Then we have Shankaroon T, who clearly loves transvestigations, but each to their own. All of them, so many. And there are many secret transgenders, including former presidents and members of the royal family. That is all correct. There will be points in the live chat where people do say outlandish things, but it looks like in this first video we haven't come across that. If we do later on, then we debunk it, and if not, then we just go across. So this one was the first video in the series. It's quite tame and it's understandable why it's like that. That's it for this one then. That will be all for now, so until next time, and take care. Thank you.